Holy frock. This last tavern table was pretty stacked. They showed off quite a few things. They teased us 2 new mobs, some Twitch drops, mid-season HR leaderboards, a new Golden God bundle with a skeleton skin. It's got a torch skin, a lobby skin. I'm imagining this to be like a $300 bundle that I'd gladly buy in 2 seconds anyway. I've gone ahead and just cut down a lot of the video. Okay, all of the ums and ahs and tangents that don't need to be there, I've completely cut from the video to make it a more enjoyable listening experience. Anyways, let me get the fuck out of here. Enjoy the tavern table with the boys.
I love this. I'll just try to talk quietly, but there's a neat little thing that happens with this lobby that I absolutely love, and I know there's some people on here that are already like, I gotta cop this. All of the rich, interrupting the music. I love this lobby. And you might notice that there's a little guy sitting at the table there. Greetings, adventurers. Grab a seat and join us at the tavern table. I got it right this time. How's it going, everybody? Welcome in. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Tavern Table, episode 3. Welcome in. Hello, Grayson, Terry, SDF. Pleasure to have you guys here. Excited to show a bunch of cool stuff tonight. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Yeah. We've already got a sip counter going.
I'm putting it down.
No, let's see if we can beat our record from last time. I mean, what was it at? Does anybody have the number?
What was the record last time?
I want to say it was like 100 and something. All right, well, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, and last time we had quite a bit to discuss before we actually got in the meat and potatoes of everything. But this time we're going to go ahead and jump straight into it, and we're going to begin with talking about the adventure mode, much awaited in a PvE game mode.
Yeah, so I think that's the big question that everyone's been asking about is what is this upcoming PvE mode? So I'm just going to refer to it as the adventure mode. That's what we call it internally. Kind of, you could think of it as like a looter shooter co-op dungeon crawler experience, right? So it's basically our overall thinking for what Dark and Darker has kind of evolved. Originally, we wanted it to be kind of like this fantasy adventure simulator, right? And one of the aspects is, having these super dangerous hardcore dungeons was one of the ways to kind of present that, but that wasn't the only way, right? And so now, we've had that kind of feedback. Hey, we would like more of that dungeon crawling aspect and maybe some of the stuff that's not just so PvP focused. And so this is the time that we're kind of actually exploring that, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're going back to, hey, using this as a platform for doing more fantasy dungeon simulator, right? I think there are a lot of people that are kind of thirsty for this kind of co-op dungeon crawling experience right now. And there's not a lot of other games out there that give our unique take on
Especially the first-person view of our fantasy.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
Right. I think this is something that we could kind of fill that hole. The goal of this for us internally is like, hey, we want to make this place where you could kind of explore the world, learning this kind of complicated game systems, but also just like goof around with your friends, right? Like I was telling Grayson, my sales pitch to him was like, we want this mode to be where you could just kind of hit the start button with your friends, you jump in with your buddies, and you just go in for like dungeon hijinks and shenanigans, just like mess around, just have a good time. And the final thing is that we still want it to be part of like linked to the overall, Dark and Darker, like the hardcore extraction, looter game. Mm-hmm. And so you're still part of that community. So I think, people are asking like, oh, okay, is this like this one-off, like, Tarkov, like this single player mode? No, it's actual own new mode, right? So I'll go into explaining kind of the structure we're looking at is that now when you go into the world map is you would actually just select your location, like Forgotten Castle. And then you select the type of mode that you want to interact with that location. So there will be the adventure mode. So that's the first mode. In terms of increasing difficulty, right, is adventure mode. The next one will be the normal mode. And normal mode is...
0 to 125?
Yeah, 0 to 125. So it's going to be a combined. Again, we had the same concerns with, having too many matchmaking pools. So I'll also go into like some of the ways that we're kind of predicting ways to reduce like the negative impacts of just expanding too many matching pools. But one of it is right now we're going to combine the 2 normal modes, 0, 25, 24, and up to 125 into 1 for right now. We'll see how it goes. And then the high roller is still going to be split into 2 modes. So it's going to be there's going
Zero,
to be
two to 4.
yeah. So that's the big change to high roller is you could do a start at 0, right?
Big win for the
0
Zero to Hero enjoyers.
And then the high roller 2 is going to be the same as before. It's the 225 plus, right? The other big change is because now we've striated it into these 4 modes or these 4 pools internally. We have a lot more tools now to fine tune the balancing between these different modes. Right. There was a lot of worries about, okay, I'm going to do stuff in the adventure mode and it's going to have all this stuff's going to bleed into all these the PvP modes and it's going to cause a lot of issues with the economy and stuff. And so those are concerns, but because now we have the ability to, balance per each mode and per each floor to, a higher degree, that's one of the things that we're going to really work on is matching that risk to reward balancing between all those different modes. And so we want to give places where you have your sandbox that you could play the way you want. At the same time, you can't get all the same rewards because the reality of it is there's risk settings, right?
Yeah, so, on that topic, so there's been a lot of speculation about what loot will be available. Obviously, there's some concerns that people have voiced with like griefing in the dungeon. Do you want to talk about some things that you've put into motion or planned to counteract griefing, and then also to, like you mentioned, make the adventure mode rewarding, but not so rewarding that it's the go-to game mode for everybody?
Yeah, so on the griefing side, we're going to try blocking out as much of the obvious trolling, but we know it's not going to be possible. That's stuff that we're going to have to keep on implementing. Even yesterday, we were testing with Grace and I.
Yeah.
And the slow debuff.
For the throwing knives and Francesca.
And we were being chased. And we're on different teams. And I was just throwing knives and then a whole pack of, and we're like, okay, so these are things that we're going to, slowly be trying to put in the preventions for griefing. But we know that there's going to be weird interactions.
People love to break the game, yes.
We have gotten a lot of hints about what some could be, so that's been nice.
But we've been getting a lot of messages from the community, and people have been passing along feedback like, hey, what about this? What about this? It's good to hear from folks in the community, and a lot of that has been added to like the list of things that we're thinking about.
You won't be able to just stand in a doorway.
Yeah, block it, yeah. And then I think, okay, the big question is about like the reward structure, right? And so that's a lot of stuff that we've been working on to make that match up with the risk. So like adventure mode, the general loot there would be maybe up to uncommon and rare, and then you can get the bosses and like the very high value, like the Marvelist or the Gold Chest. You could get the epics out of those, right? Mm-hmm. And so you could still go on an adventure and feel like you're making these kind of progress, and if you go for the high value targets, you can still get loot that feels substantial, right? But it's not something that's going to be like, game breaking, we don't think, right? Again, we have better tools now, so we could do a lot more of that kind of fine-tune adjusting. But we think this is going to be a good kind of it gives enough of motivation that, hey, you could have fun here and you could get things that you feel like, okay, when I do want to make the jump to the more dangerous, so I'm not just starting from 0, right? We also have ability to fine tune more for like the quest. So we know when you don't have the threat of PvP, farming like wolf skins is going to be much, much easier, right? We're also rebalancing. So the quest drop rates are going to be better, much better in the modes that have PvP involved.
So right? Could that be extrapolated as like troll pelts? You'll have a much easier time getting a troll pelt if you're playing the PvP mode versus playing the PvP mode.
So all of this stuff is now, whereas before it was just like a one universal constant that we had, right? It's like now we can set it for each dungeon mode, right? And we're gonna actually take use of that. Yeah. So I guess like the easy outline is adventure mode. It's gonna have no gear score cap. It's gonna be trios only. The reason why it's trios only is we want to kind of limit making too many pools, but we thought about it. It's like, man, because there's no PvP, we're not restricting you have to be a trios. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have trios only. We're gonna have the random matchmaking, and you could go in solos, duos with the please don't fill my team. So you have solos there, you have duos there, but because that PvP danger isn't there, it's like we didn't feel like it's a necessity to have a separate match pool for solos only, duos only. It's like, okay, hey, this is just one big party pool, right? And so that's adventure mode. No gear score, trios only.
One thing about adventure mode is, how about the item rarity grade?
Yeah, so that
Unlimited?
yeah, we could set that.
Maybe change.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just.
Yeah, so we could set that on in
That's
real
just-
time.
Yeah, that's just a start trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hard commit and say, oh, okay, we're gonna keep it unlimited forever. But
I think there's definitely some people that would enjoy going in with their, you know, having a Fulgore or something and going into the dungeon. You know, it beckons back to the old days of MMOs where a high level player would just be sitting in a low level area and they just got all their cool gear on. Everyone's like, look how awesome that guy is. He's one shotting everything.
yeah, so that was kind of the fantasy that we were talking about when we were talking about, oh, should we limit this? And it's like, so I was actually the advocate, oh, let's limit it. And then it's like, no, you know, the MMO is like, you have the guy that's just like standing in the town square with, you know, the full unique set. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what I want to eventually reach, right? And so, okay, that's a fantasy that we want to endorse, right?
This wasn't something that we had originally mentioned, but just something that came off the top of my head. Is there any plan to add like an ability to inspect someone while you're in the dungeon and only in the PvE mode, just so you can actually see how cool their gear is?
That's a good idea. But
So
Just
there's no
a
plans
thought.
for that right now.
근데 뭐 필요하면 그쪽으로.
Yeah.
이제
Again,
Right,
there's
right.
stuff that's being research and development side for like things that more social stuff that was in plans for the gathering hall, and that has kind of a similar, you know.
그래서 그 얘기를 해줘야 될 것 같아요. 그러니까 PVE 모드가 이제 우리가 어드벤처 모드 만들잖아요.
네.
근데 그게 이제 파이널라이즈 된 거 나오는 게 아니라 이제 처음
Yeah.
그거
So
완전 베이직 라인에 있는 거고 그래서 더 발전시킬 거다. 이제 그런 이야기를 좀 해줘야.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the other thing that STF wants to make clear is like this is the first step of, again, you know, we want this kind of fantasy dungeon simulator. And this is first step. It's not. We have, you know, we're being very realistic. We know that this is not going to be this nicely polished mode that comes out from the start. But we had this one kind of just crazy big idea. It's like, hey, yeah, there was that kind of thirst for just a co-op dungeon crawling experience, and also the complexity of our multiple game systems is just, you know, to learn all at once with that tension of stress of PvP is a lot to take in. So I think, you know, we're killing, you know, two birds with one stone right now. But because of that, don't expect it to be this like perfect single player or like dungeon crawling experience right from the get-go. And we're going to continue building on this, right? And I think the other thing, you know, this is kind of a reach go with this mode, is that because this is going to have that kind of more emphasis on just adventuring with your friends, is that there's actually a lot of stuff that if we built for this mode to make the adventuring more fulfilling, is that we think that it's actually going to carry over and make the PvP, you know, dungeon more engaging also. And so it's kind of like, hey, we can also use this as a test bed for things that make the dungeons feel more alive.
Yeah, there's actually something on the list that we're going to talk about a little bit later, specifically in the case what you're talking about of improvements to PvE or like additional details that make the PvP experience a little bit broader. We have some things on the list. I agree 100% that expanding the PvE mode has implications for PvP, and in my opinion, you know, we've talked about this a little bit internally, it's only a good thing. Sorry to cut you off there. I just wanted to bring up the fact that some things that are in the works that we'll immediately see with the wipe that are kind of indirect changes that will make a difference in the PvP mode. Since you brought up the adventure mode and you mentioned that there's now a split into normal and high roller, do you want to talk a little bit more specifically about the four modes? We've already kind of gone over adventure, but
the remaining modes. So like the normal mode. So I guess, you know, if you look at it, we kind of look at it, hey, this is kind of the introduction to the looter extraction experience. It's basically the mode you know right now, except we squashed into 2 gear scores. So 0 to 124. We know that unpredictable aspect of PvP makes the difficulty go up so much more, that the rewards have to be better, right? So this is now like the general loot grade is you get all the way up to epic from the normal dungeons, and then you get the bosses in the high value chests, you could get the legendary grade, right? And then high roller is what we kind of call it like the competitive extraction experience, where now you have like super high risk, but you're going for the best rewards there. It's kind of much more hardcore, much lower survival rate. We're actually like have a lot more tension. I mean, it's basically what the high roller that we experimented this season. That's what it is we introduced the circle and the random portals. So we're kind of actively pushing PvP. I think this season we kind of, you know, what we failed at with that higher tension was that the rewards didn't actually meet that kind of higher risk rate. And so now we have that ability to kind of fine tune the balance. It's like, oh, okay, this is where the reward rates, we could actually fine tune that to make it, hey, this is super high risk, high tension. But when you do get out, you're like, oh, okay, I got out with like really great loot, right? So the high roller one up to 225, big change is that we're not going to be dropping named out of the first high roller. But the drop rates for uniques, we're going to adjust that. There's some new mechanics going in. So like, hey, you go there, you're the last man standing, and you take out the bosses, then there's a very high probability that you're coming out with like a new unique, right?
So no artifacts, but you're more likely to see unique items.
Yeah, and then at the same token, at the highest one that's where it's the same structure, but then the reward is just up 1 degree, right? So if you're the last survivor there, it's like, hey, there's a good chance that I come out with like a named if I go through the whole experience.
Gotcha. I think there's some people that have been pursuing artifacts. I myself, in preparation for the named arena, probably killed about 300 bosses in the last 2 weeks and did not get an artifact to drop. So knowing that I could go to 225 plus and have a much higher probability of finding one is very exciting.
So so I did skip over like one last again, this is a kind of a side goal with the adventure mode. Is I think the thinking is not that everyone that plays adventure mode is going to graduate to the PvP modes. I think some cohort of our the expectant new people that will engage in the adventure mode, PvP will probably be a non-starter. So, but the other thing is like we do want to give them a place where, hey, if you get comfortable enough, maybe you could give them that little nudge, right? And say, oh, well, I don't consider myself a PvP player, but maybe I'll give it a try because I have this built up knowledge, right? So we're kind of looking at the adventure mode as also a place where, hey, you go in, you learn the systems, and you can kind of practice the dungeons, the monsters, and the bosses too, right? I think, we're focused on too much competition. Like even bossing becomes this kind of other gateway. And so this is a way that we give them steps, right?
Yeah.
For the people that do want to graduate. Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's our goal. Yeah.
We do know that there are, I mean, just from reviews that we've gotten on Steam and from people that respond to us on Twitter, feedback in Discord, feedback on our website, we do know that there are plenty of people, and even like anecdotal stories from people that play the game, that have friends that say, oh, I would love to play the game if it had a PvE mode. I will probably check out the PvP mode once I'm a little more comfortable with the PvE and I'm not just getting rolled over by the skeletons. We all remember what it was like in the playtests and the early access release when you would watch your kill feed and 90% of people were dying to the skeletons in the first spawn box. So that is the experience for the average player starting the game, and they don't want to get destroyed by PvP. Some of them might, but having the option there to go into adventure mode and learn the game is very exciting for those players. So on the topic of like kind of expanding on the dungeon a little bit, was one thing we're going to mention. We're not going to give specific details on it, and I do want to just point out that what we talk about here today is not everything that's going to be coming with the wipe. We want to keep something secret, so there will be some stuff beyond what we're sharing today, so make sure that you pay attention to the wipe announcement. But one thing that I was excited to see is the return of the expressman. Now, I didn't write down any details for that, but if you want to share anything for that, feel free.
그냥 간단하게 여러 번 쓸 수 있다. 그냥 매번 내려가면 다운룸에.
So he's saying the expressman, he's coming back. There's going to be adjustments to his mechanic. You could use him multiple times. Again, for us, is hey, we put him in. It was a great system, and then we put in the CMM, and it was like, oh wait, we couldn't get him to work with that version right away. But it was a great system, right? And I think it also goes in with this kind of promote people to go explore more of the dungeon. So now he's adjusted. He's coming back. We played around with him already, and it seems like it's going to be a good way to promote people to keep on dungeon delving deeper.
I'm excited for Expressman. I love Expressman. I mean, I think once the quality of life change came to Expressman where you could like right click stuff and you could just quickly dump a stack of things before you got down to the next one, it was amazing. Loved Expressman, and I'm hoping that means Otto will be back as well. I'm sure. I'm already seeing the comments in chat. Everybody's like, where's Otto? So on to something I kind of briefly hinted at earlier. With the updates to High Roller and the changes to the loot that is coming, specifically with uniques and artifacts, there is a boss mechanic or spawning change coming for High Roller. Because of this, the loot from the bosses is going to be buffed accordingly. So as you explained, if you go down and you kill those, especially the later bosses, you can expect to get some pretty good loot because it is changing a bit how you kind of access the bosses. Do we want to talk about that at all?
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So do we want to go into exactly?
It's up to you. You want to, yeah.
So I don't want to spoil it too much and get people ready to they're already, oh, I know what to get. But we are connecting the sub bosses and some other side hunting loot to be more valuable towards creating boss spawning items. So now when you go in, and this is only for the 2 high roller versions, right? Now when you go in, the bosses will not always be there. You will now have to craft items to spawn the bosses. By the way, the items do look very cool. I was super happy with how the items actually turned out. But that does mean that since the bosses aren't always there and you do have to spawn them, you can expect better loot. And also, I think one good change about this is also it gives you agency of which boss you do spawn. So now, if you are more comfortable with Lich, for example, you can choose to spawn Lich, but then that does restrict the boss's loot pool to which boss you do choose to spawn. But yeah, I really do think that will be good for the economy. I also think it'll be really nice for players, for example, lower level players just killing sub bosses. They'll have oh, I got this item. I can craft the boss key with this. I think that will help the economy in so many ways. But yeah, as far as the new bossing mechanic, that is how that's going to go.
Very exciting stuff. When you first explained that to me, I was like, wait, this is actually an awesome idea. I love the idea of it being a little bit more difficult to access the bosses and more preparation, more intent being there rather than it just being like a thing you do because there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
And then also the loot being kind of buffed as a result.
Yeah, as I said, you will be able to, for example, practice the normal version of bosses in PvE mode, so we aren't really taking that away.
Yeah, and regular normal. So adventure mode and normals will both still have consistent boss spawns. They will always be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, well, guys, I have some pretty cool stuff to share with you. With the wipe, there will be an addition of some new monsters. I have 2 of them to showcase for you here. Now, we've hidden the sounds, and some of the animations are not, well, their animations are finished, but the effects that are not added on these clips. So I understand that this is not the full extent of it, but I'm going to go ahead and pull that up right now. And on the left here, we have the Abomination, and on the right is the Cerberus. These are 2 very well-detailed monsters. I saw some footage from these in the internal kind of system here, and I got to see kind of the design process for these. These are super cool, and this is not the only mobs coming with this update. The other mobs that I saw in there were also pretty sweet. So
yeah, the Abomination's awesome.
When we were having our meetings, kind of like discussing what was going to be added to the Tavern Table previews, Abomination was the one I wanted to shout the most because it's just such a cool monster. It is much bigger than you think it is. Put it that way. Terry, on the last episode of Tavern Table, you sort of alluded to, a bit of an overhaul of the monsters, not really like any specific details, but just kind of that there was an original design in place, and then eventually that kind of got changed because it was too much work to kind of like retroactively fit parts from other monsters. These monsters, from what I've seen, are really well designed and fleshed out. Is this sort of the new direction for the monster design? Do you want to talk about that at all, or is that not ready yet?
그 몬스터 쪽에서 그 시스템 쪽에서
뭐 변할 게 있는지 아니면 뭐 정확하게 어떤?
그러니까 우리가 그 시스템도 오버하울 하고 있었잖아요.
아 그거는
근데 아직
yeah 스텝이야. 저 first step.
Yeah, we're still so this is not actually this was still made using the old process of just like hand.
Yeah. Seven Inferno monsters.
Yeah, so there's now you know the exact number of new monsters, but so again, this is not the fruits of that back end change that we're still working on. Yeah, this is more like, hey, like to be honest, we're like the water world is such a huge thing, and it's like, oh, it's not ready, but what can we still as like a mail call for?
몬스터 쪽에서 지금 이제 그 스트럭처 어떻게
Yeah,
되고 있는지.
so he's gonna give the actual information on the back.
지금은 이제 테크니컬 디자이너들이 이거를 되게 힘들게 만들었어요. 그러니까 테크니컬 얘기하면 프로그램 없이. 그러다 보니까 지금은 이제 스파게티 코드가 좀 많고 블루프린트로 되어 있는. 일반적으로 그 게임 디벨롭먼트 쪽에서 말하는 블루프린트 헬 펼쳐져 있는 거예요. 그래서 지금은 그거를 풀고 있어요. 이걸 풀고 나면 이제 이걸 뭐 코드로 내리고 이런 스트럭처가 있을 거고 그렇게 되면 그러니까 궁극적으로 좀 더 쉽게 말하면 우리는 디자이너들한테 레고 블럭을 주고 싶은 거예요. 근데 지금은 그냥 완전 핸드메이드 하고 있는 상태인 거예요.
For people that have experience with like Unreal Engine, is basically like all our monsters were made by game designers using the blueprint system without any real help from the programming side, right? So the one unique thing about the Unreal Engine, they have a system called Blueprints. It's kind of a visual coding system. Again, because our monster team, they're very talented, but at the same time, they're not really programmers, right? And they were able to make all the monsters in the game using the system, again, because their background is not in programming. A lot of practices are not best practices. That's why like the same type of bugs keep on coming up. And so right now we're trying to reanalyze all the system that they made and kind of translate that into an actual structure with our programming team. The good analogy is like the best way would have been we make like Lego blocks and give that to the designers, and they could build the monsters this way. But right now, everything was like hand built. It's like,
handcrafting.
Yeah, and like shaving each little part. And now we have to kind of pull this apart, see what are the actual core components, build that, and then give that back to them. And that's a process that's being done in the background.
Gotcha. Well, the only reason I brought it up is that when I actually saw the sort of like finished products, there's still some compiling and stuff to be done. To me, they looked like the revolution of the monster design. So it feels like regardless of whether this is the new system or not, it's like headed in the right direction. They're very promising. Especially like I said, as soon as I saw the Abomination, I'm like, oh man, this thing is awesome. Very excited to see these come out.
Yeah. So again, we moved like that adage in Silicon Valley, move fast, break. We broke a lot of things. We have a lot of technical debt that we're still paying back right now. The goal is once we start fixing these things and improving it, it really opens it up for the future when we want to expand really quickly. And yeah, so I think one of the collateral damage here was the water world that's being pushed back. It's not coming out this white because hey, we have all this technical debt that we have to address to make sure when we do a bunch of new content stuff, things are not all broken,
All right. Well, we do have on the sort of PvE side of things here, we have a few more things to talk about, or I guess the dungeon experience, I should say. One thing I know a lot of people will be very excited about is that there are some new crafting items coming, new crafted items coming with the update. We're going to only show one of them, and then the rest you guys will see when the actual wipe comes out. Unfortunately, it's just that the 3D model wasn't available for me to grab, so I just have the thumbnail here, so we're going to add it to the screen here. It's going to be down in the center. That is the Tome of Sheol. Sheol? It is a crafted spell book. So finally a crafted option for casters. I know people are going to be really excited about that one. There are other crafting items coming, so keep in mind this is just one of them, but just wanted to briefly bring that up for everybody. It's pretty sweet looking. I love that the dark spell book kind of theme. We were originally going to talk about, I kind of wanted to swap the order of things here just because it makes a little bit more sense to kind of go off the tail end of discussing monsters and the dungeon experience here. There's going to be a decent number of new quests and quest types coming with the upcoming season. Grayson, you want to talk about those?
Yeah, so, with PvE mode, people will be able to go through the quest a little bit quicker than they usually would. As far as killing monsters, it will be a lot easier to kill monsters in PvE mode when you aren't really contested by other players trying to kill you. But with that being said, we did want to increase the amount of quests and also not the difficulty, but I would say the content inside one quest will be a little bit more than previous wipes. And also the actual amount of quest is increased. We also have a few new quest mechanics. I'm not going to go into that because I just want it to be a surprise. As well as there is merchants in the past that did not have quests now have quests, and there is an additional merchant that I'm not going to also share, but you can expect a new merchant. And that also has its own little unique take on the merchant system. It's a lot different than any other merchant we put in before. But as far as quests, there are a lot more weeks. So usually how the questing works is there is 7 weeks with the final 3 quests at the end of every season, but we have expanded it to 12 weeks plus the final. So that'll give players a lot more content to go through. The last few quest weeks are much harder, but the rewards are much better. So that's a good payoff, I think.
But the quest will basically be starting right away from the very beginning of the season, all the way up until potentially the end of the wipe, or the week before the end of wipe.
Yeah, right. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the end of wipe, there will be quests, right?
And do you want to talk about? I'm sure there may be some changes with affinity or crafting. Is there anything planned as far as changing when you get access to certain crafting tiers?
Yes, that is changed completely, actually. But yeah, I'll let players wait and see that themselves.
Okay, all right. I don't even know myself. There's a few things. There's some things I like to keep a secret for myself as well. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about. I got a picture right before we started the stream that we weren't sure if we were going to talk about, but we have a plan that some of you may have already heard about, which is that there are HR leaderboards coming up with potentially either at the start of the wipe or being added shortly after. SDF, do you want to talk about this?
Well, actually, it's not my design.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a Terrace design.
Well, yeah. So I think we're being too optimistic if it's going to be at the start of the wipe.
Okay.
So our reach goal is sometime, mid-season. But it's just like, people have like pretty fond memories of the playtest, and it was like, okay, like the current system with the adventure rank it was supposed to be a replacement for that with like some kind of skill base, but now we know like the most recent iteration of the adventure rank is not skill based at all. It's just it's just like a time sink kind of thing, right? So for this season, at least for kind of to harken back to like the playtest, is that hey, we're working on bringing back that kind of old style leaderboard and do it on like a weekly rotation. So this is something light, something fun, something, until we can figure out, okay, what's the real direction we want to do for the adventure rank system. Adventure rank is still going to be here for this season. Again, we're not, we don't want to make too much drastic changes to these kind of progression systems in mid-season. So I think you'll see the big overhaul for that in the subsequent season. I think the other thing was the arena. Yeah. So.
그래서 뭐 아까 설명해.
Yeah. So is basically we're thinking at least this season we're gonna try. We have plans. We want to try out a solo queue pool for arena and a solo queue.
Only solo queue.
Yeah. It's like arena we do feel is more of that kind of competitive aspect.
Not 1v1 arena, to be clear.
Yeah, not 1v1. No, it's like the League of Legends style, right? So rank is that you have the party, and then you have
the random party.
The random, where everyone's just solo queue, right? And so the team is made up of. And so I think this is one of the things that we're going to probably test out this season is arena solo queue and respective leaderboard to go along with that. So that's one of the goals. But
we don't want to split matchmaking pool too much.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be contingent on like seeing the player population, the participation rates for the arena, and seeing how it's distributed. So maybe again, these are all things that is based on the data. We did see pretty good participation rates for arena this past season, especially going towards as the season progressed. If it's at that rate and that amount of participation, I think we could support too, but we don't know yet, right? So it might have to be like, hey, maybe 1 week arena is party mode, 1 week solo queue only, or something. This is something that is kind of a wish goal that we have in our minds, and we're thinking about how to implement this properly. That's something that we're looking to test this upcoming season.
I know for a fact that people are excited about that. I saw Soapy in here that was excited about it. I myself, I like to play a lot of solo arena, and anybody who plays solo arena knows that going up against a pre-made 3-stack, you're just at a disadvantage. So having an option when you want to play alone.
Well, I think the Soapy discussion definitely had an impact. I think the other thing is like class stacking. That's also an issue, but the reason we couldn't attack that full on was like, can the population support it or not? Right, but if we have its own dedicated, we could easily turn that policy back on. It's like, okay, if there's enough people and still have a reasonable matchmaking time. So this is why we want to progress with this kind of test, right?
All right. Are there any other updates regarding Dungeon or Arena that we didn't cover that we wanted to talk about, or are we good to move on?
I think So actually, SDF and we have another meeting shortly after this, so. We might need to bow out a little early, so we'll see.
We're good. We're making good time on the schedule here. We've got some stuff that we could talk about after you guys take off regarding the community side of stuff. Real quick, just to confirm, we've already mentioned this in the Discord. Wipe is confirmed for April 10th. The current plan is to start maintenance at 3 p.m. KST, which is 6 a.m. UTC. I believe that's midnight Eastern, if I remember correctly, but that's roughly what we're expecting for the maintenance time.
Crossed,
it can change, but that's the plan.
우리 셋이
예, 그거 목표고. 근데 이제 시간이 얼마 없어서 그냥 게더링홀 관련해서 좀 빨리 얘기해.
Okay, yeah. So there's the big thing that SDF. The reason he's here, he wants to, his thing that he wants to talk about is the gathering hall.
그러니까 게더링홀을 이제 이번 시즌은 좀 힘들고 사이즈가 너무 커서.
Yeah. So,
근데 이걸 이제 게임의 되게 중요한 사이클 중에 하나로 우리가 아레나 만들 때 이 아레나가 그 게임의 어떤 또 하나의 사이클로 이렇게 들어왔잖아요. 그것처럼 또 다른 큰 사이클 하나를 만들어주고 싶은데 그렇게 하기에 제가 볼 때는 최소 한 2달에서 3달은 완전히 여기에 풀리 개발해야 돼요. 그래서 이번 시즌은 없을 거고 근데 다음 시즌엔 시작과 함께 있을 거다. 그걸 목표로 이제.
Yeah. So the announcement for the gathering hall, unfortunately, it's going to be pushed back. Right? It's not coming out this season. Honestly, when we were looking at it, it's like this is a system that's on the same scale and scope as like something like the arena. Is something that we're looking at as like a critical component of adding another critical loop cycle, game loop. And for this is when we started it was like, oh, okay, this is a pretty huge, substantial system. And so SCF personally is like, oh, okay, this is something that we're going to have to dedicate a lot of resources to. And that's why it's getting pushed back, right? So he's saying, even with him working on focusing his direct energies on this, he's looking at like probably like 2 months, 3 months. And so the goal is to have it fleshed out, ready to go for the start of the next season.
Gotcha. All right, well, we will be looking forward to that. I know there's a lot of potential with the Gathering Hall, and I know that people are very excited for a social space, so we'll definitely be looking forward to that. I believe that's everything that we had to talk about as far as wipe details. As I mentioned earlier, guys, there is more coming with the wipe. We're trying to keep, I would say, more than half of it secret. You will definitely hear more about what's coming up when the actual wipe launches, but we wanted to show off some changes that were coming with the dungeon, changes to loot, mention that the Expressman is coming back, addition to adventure mode, potential addition of the HR leaderboards and everything. But aside from that, was there anything else that you guys wanted to add before you head off to your next meeting?
그냥 새로운 아티팩트들 이제 만들고 있어서
so
시즌 중에 아마 나올 건데 근데 이제 그런 것들은 디테일은 공개하고 싶진 않고요 지금은.
Yeah, so he's keeping stuff like the content stuff with the core and combat. So he hinted at it. They're going to, be rolled out during the season, but he doesn't want to give too much details. That's what he said. So he's working on like new artifacts that are going to be coming out.
Okay. All right, well, SDF is cooking on some stuff, and we will hear more about it either with the wipe or mid-season, so look forward to that. We've got some more exciting stuff to talk about that I think people are going to be very interested in that is not directly related to the game, but as some people have already speculated, there will be a Twitch Drops campaign. Grayson, you want to talk about that at all? I saw some of the items that are coming up with Twitch Drops. There's one that we actually have to show off, and I'll let you kind of explain how the decisions were made around that. The Hungering Lantern, which is pretty sweet.
Before you start that, I think we have to go for our next get ready.
Yeah, feel free to go ahead.
All right. But thanks, everyone. Yeah. And
thanks for coming.
Yeah, I know you're going to have... This is some really cool stuff, so... All right. Bye.
Yeah, so for Twitch Drops, they will be going for 2 weeks shortly after the wipe starts. I'm super happy with what we were able to pull out for the drops this time. It will include some in-game related stuff, and so by in-game I mean items, and also it will include cosmetics like last time. I'm really happy about these cosmetics. They look super cool. To be honest, I really think this will be really, as far as the cosmetics go, I feel like we're like stepping up a level. I know Odin will have them to show off soon, at least one of them. I didn't want to show everything today because it wouldn't be fun, but we will.
We have the Hungering Lantern up on screen right now.
Yeah. Oh, do we? Okay, I can't see, but I hope it looks cool for everybody.
It's pretty sweet. We've got the concept art and like the full 3D render as well as the in-game kind of like the spin here. But this is only one of the items that is being added with the Twitch Drops campaign. And do you want to talk about when that's happening?
Yeah. So as far as the exact dates, the current schedule is on the 12th through the 23rd. So Saturday until the next 2 following Wednesdays. Yeah, as I said, it will be 2 weeks. Compared to our last drops, the time required will be a little bit higher, but there will be a lot more rewards, and there will be, as far as like cosmetics, there are more cosmetics as well. I think the cosmetics are really good, as I said. But yeah, I'm really excited about this Twitch drops. I think it'll be really hyped to go together with the adventure mode releasing. So yeah, that's about it for the Twitch drops part. As far as the actual schedule, we do plan on releasing a trailer if it is made in time. We will obviously give exact dates with a timestamp on Discord so everybody knows exactly when it comes out for their own time zone. But yeah, we'll be sure to include that in the Discord announcement pretty soon.
We've also got some cosmetics that will be available next season. This one I'm going to show off. Since you can't see it, Grayson, I'm going to be showing off the new Gilded Lobby, which I'm going to be quiet so you guys can hear this. Awesome. I love this. I'll just try to talk quietly, but there's a neat little thing that happens with this lobby that I absolutely love, and I know there's some people on here that are already like, I gotta cop this. All of the rich, yeah. Interrupting the music, I love this lobby, and you might notice that there's a little guy sitting at the table there. That's a new skin that will also be coming and available with the next season. The Gilded Skeleton. He's a special guy. He's got his own little crown, a nice little emblem on his chest. It is a pretty sweet skin. I've actually seen it in games, and it looks, I mean, you're seeing the preview, but it is like super, super shiny and golden. It's very cool. So you can expect all that to come in next season. There will be even more stuff that we have not talked about and that we haven't shown. I'm going to pull up the Discord camera here so I can show off. I'm going to pop this stuff in here. You can say hello. He's got a little torch of his own right there. And there's another item that'll also be shown in the corner there next to the Hungering Lantern, which is another new torch skin that will be available next season. No confirmation on what the stats are on the skeleton, guys. I know everyone's already saying it's MDR. We don't know yet. At least I don't. But in addition to the in-game cosmetics, there's the Twitch drop. We've got a ton of new stuff for you to cop next season. And on top of that, we also have an upcoming sale that we're very excited to talk about, which is going to start on April 10th and run until the 23rd, and that is going to be 30% off on the game. So if you're looking to pick up a second account or get your friends into the game, it will be 30% off from the 10th to the 23rd. And aside from that, we do have one other announcement. Grayson and I, as well as some of the community team, have been working on some updates to the creator program. I'm not going to go into specific details about it right now because there will be an update on the FAQ. Basically, we're just looking to work more closely with creators and improve the creator program so that we can try to expand it to every region. Right now, it's very difficult for us to work with people outside of NA and EU areas, but we're trying to make sure that we can include everybody that qualifies and also give you guys more incentives, give you more to look forward to. So look forward to that. Pretty soon we will do an announcement on the Discord. Grayson, is there anything that you wanted to talk about on the community side?
So we can expect some upcoming community events with this next wipe. As far as the details, I think it would be really cool for us to have some PvE related community events this upcoming season. So we'll have to see what's going to come.
All right, well, keep your eyes and ears peeled, folks. We will see you all very soon. That is all for us today, but like I said, keep your eyes on the patch notes. I went and looked at what was coming up with the update. We covered some very cool stuff here, but there's plenty more to come that people are going to be very happy about. So keep an eye on it. Again, April 10th. Maintenance is scheduled to begin at 3 p.m. KST, but obviously we know things can change. So we are looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. Thank you all for coming tonight. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all very much, guys.